All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to the 24 Down podcast, episode 19. We are almost at 20, which is crazy to think that this is still going strong, and we've got quite a few episodes planned out as well. So I'll also get into later. We touched on it a little bit, I think, in the last episode. We are going to do a special episode for episode 24, so I'll get into details about that. But for now, let's just jump right into this and bring on our guest, Matt Wolf. Matt, how are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Pretty good, man. So I guess before we get into you kind of giving us a catch up of what your life has been post Valley Forge, just set the stage for us. What year did you come to Valley Forge?
I want to say I came in spring of, it was not the fall semester. It was the spring semester of 07. No, 06. Might have been 06. I think it was 06.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say it had to have been either 05 or 06 because I think
it was 06.
I think I came. Yeah, so you were spring of 06, and I think I was fall of 06.
Yeah, because I came in with Andrew and Rizzo.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so how many, you were on 24 Down, but you weren't there the whole time, right?
No, I was only there for a year and a half. Like I did the spring semester, and then I came back and squatted my room for the next year.
Okay. See, and like that's something that's crazy to me because just in thinking of it, it's like it almost seems like you were there the whole time too. And I think even after you left 24, you were still part of the 24 Down family, and you'd still hang out with us and everything like that. So we'll get into a bunch of that. I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you kind of catch everybody up on what your life has been post Valley Forge, post 24 Down.
Well, kind of post Valley Forge, 24 Down. As you all know, I didn't stay on 24 Down the entire time. I moved to 24 Up and Hartwick after that. So during my time at Hartwick, I was good friends with Eric Beck. I'm sure you know him, and everyone else on 24 knows him. But I was good friends with him. He was hanging out with Shauna Kroll at that time, and her roommate was my then time friend, but then it matured to girlfriend and now wife. So that's where I met my wife.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she actually hated my guts. Like for the first couple times she met me, because we had a couple classes previous to when we started hanging out, and she's like, I don't like this guy. So it's just kind of crazy how God brought us together later.
Nice.
And post Valley Forge, I graduated in 2010, and like Bowdwin, Meyer did not want to give me the diploma at all. I had to rip it out of his hands basically. And then I moved back to Michigan, went back to my dealership job. I actually loved that job. That was kind of my favorite thing to do. I was moving cars around, drove everything new. I never drove anything over 100 miles. So it was kind of cool, but it just didn't pay anything. So I moved on from there, went with a landscape company for a little bit, and he went belly up, owed me a bunch of money. So I ended up getting some equipment from him as payment type of thing. And then I ended up starting back at the dealership and then doing landscape on the side. That grew and grew. I ended up taking another dealership job, paying more money, and I couldn't do both anymore. So I went full-time landscape. So I own Ace of Blades Landscaping. You can follow my business page if you like. I haven't posted anything on there in about a year and a half, but I've been so busy. But anyway, and then after that, due to all this COVID crap, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. So I ended up selling a bunch of stuff, and I work at Meyer Distribution in Newport now. So that's kind of like my job. As far as like my family life, it's been a lot of ups and downs. Love my wife to death. We've really uh, vibed well together. I can count on one hand probably the amount of arguments we've actually had in the 9 years that we've been married. But um, you know, 6 years ago she was pregnant, and we lost that one, and that was a hard point in my life. Um, it was very hard for me to watch my wife go through that, because there's nothing I can do. And how do you sit there and deal with your own feelings while trying to make your wife, you know, keep her stuff together? And so it was just that. That was really kind of when I got back into trying to be a good church going guy. I mean, I was still going off and on, but I was trying to be a good church guy and, get back where I needed to be with God. And, 6 years later, we still never thought that, she would ever get pregnant again, but she went on a fitness kick, dropped a bunch of weight, and got really healthy. And as of right now, she's pregnant and doing well. So I'm expecting a little baby girl.
That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Yeah.
When's the due date?
Sometime in March.
Roughly March.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, so a few things from your catch up. There's a question coming up here when we get into the questions.
Yeah.
About Hartwick, because it was actually Wolfie asked the question. He couldn't remember the name of it, and I couldn't remember the name of it. So we'll get into some Hartwick stuff later. So where's your wife from originally?
She is from New Hampshire.
Okay.
So she graduated in 2009 from Valley Forge. So she was like a year before me. But yeah, that's where we met. That's like I said, she hated my guts.
Now, how was it getting her to move to Michigan?
Believe it or not, that was her suggestion.
Yeah. Does she like it?
Not at first. She actually did not like it for about the first, I want to say, 3 years that she was here.
Yeah.
Because she was like, people are rude here. And if you have never been to Michigan, you'll probably not really understand that statement. But since you have lived here all your life, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times too, what a lot of people don't understand that aren't from here is like usually the intention is not to be rude. It's just kind of like our nature, and it comes off as rude.
Right.
A lot of times to people that aren't used to it, we're very like fast paced, go, 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 always on the move type of people. And so there's a lot of instances where it might just come off rude. But no, that's interesting. I was curious how she adjusted. Like for me growing up in Michigan, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like,
yeah,
there's no other place I'd want to live like in the United States. I love this state so much, and I always tell people like how much I love it. And they're like, "Well, why? Like, Michigan's terrible." I'm like, "No, like it's great. I love it."
Well, they're thinking that Michigan is terrible because of the Metro Detroit area. Well, there's a whole lot of other Michigan that they haven't seen.
Right, for sure. And I grew up in the Metro Detroit area. I grew up in a city called Warren.
Yep.
I'm still in the Metro Detroit area. I'm in Sterling Heights now, but like even still, like I love this area. I love downtown Detroit.
Oh yeah.
Every time I go down there, I have the like, it just feels special for some reason. Maybe it's because I grew up here. I'm sure everybody has that connection to whatever big city they grew up near, whatever. But you're right. I mean, Michigan, it has everything. You can go up north. You can get, you could go skiing. You can go hunting. You could get lost in the woods. You could, like, there's so much we got all the beaches and the water and stuff like that. Like, it really is, in my opinion, trying to be not biased, the best state in the United States.
It is because, well, one thing when I first went to Pennsylvania and I was looking to cash a check, at the local liquor store, because that's what you do. And they were like, you have to have a bank. And I'm like, what? You just go and cash your checks at the liquor store. Well, where's the beer at in the liquor store? It's not in here. You got to go to a beer store. What's this?
Yeah, there was a lot of adjusting um, when I moved to Pennsylvania and like learning and like I another thing. See, now we won't go on this too long because I know you and I are the only ones from Michigan, so you're probably the only ones that are going to understand this. But I'm curious, just off the top of my head, if you felt the same way. So when living in Pennsylvania, what I would always hear Pennsylvania people say was how New Jersey drivers are the worst drivers, and you never heard anything other than they were the worst drivers. When, in my opinion, the truth was Pennsylvania drivers are the absolute worst drivers, and Jersey drivers are actually probably pretty fine, in my opinion.
Well, yes and no. I agree. Pennsylvania drivers are absolute trash. But I think Connecticut takes the cake.
Yeah. See, I haven't spent a lot of time over there, so I wouldn't know.
I almost died like 7 times driving through it, and it's a small state. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think like for me, um, Jersey drivers are very similar to Michigan drivers. We're very aggressive drivers.
Yes.
So anytime I was in or near Jersey around a bunch of Jersey drivers, it was like, yes, this is how I drive. And anytime I was in Pennsylvania, I was like, everybody needs to get the fuck out of my way right now.
Right.
No, that's awesome. Well, we will hop into some questions here unless you got any more you want to catch us up on.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, cool. So we'll get right into some questions here. And these first series of questions come from Wolfie. And his first one, and this is the Hartwick one, he wanted to know the name of the house, which we now know it's Hartwick. And he wants to know what that was like opposed to dorm life.
It was pretty much like Buongiorno on crack.
Okay.
So what 24 was, I loved being on 24 down. I just hated actually living in the rooms. I'll get into more of that a little later, but and tell you why I moved. But anyway, Hartwick was the best spot on, well, technically on campus. It really wasn't on campus, but it was. I paid for a little extra to have a single over there because they were all doubles. And I didn't want some douchebag roommate, so I paid for a double. You know, it was like an extra $100 a semester or something. So I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I just went and did it. So it was really cool because you had your own room. You basically had your own house half of the time because no one was over there, and you could just do whatever you wanted, pretty much.
So that brings up a question. Like, not that campus security really did that much anyway, but like I feel like they would patrol around campus here and there. But like, did they come to Hartwick that often, or was it just like so far off campus that they were just like,
They were there. It was Henry was there at times too, believe it or not.
yeah,
He pretty much would go and check in every now and then, just loop the parking lot and go back out, and that was about it. But not like you said, he didn't do much on main campus anyway.
yeah. I wonder if that house is still a part of campus today, or if they sold it off. Like, I'd be curious to know that.
I don't know. I saw the guy that it was named after. He did a tour of the house the one day, and at that time he was like 110 years old.
Right.
So I doubt that he's around. I mean, he seemed like a nice enough dude, but you know,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think Francis is saying that he's probably going to go to campus soon because he doesn't live too far from campus. So he said he's probably going to go there soon just to kind of drive through and check it out, see what it looks like, kind of update us all or whatever.
right.
So, Francis, if you're listening to this before you end up going, drive past Hartwick and see what the deal with that is too, because I'm
Yeah,
interested too. You know, I wonder.
yeah, it was right up Mary Hill.
Yeah, yeah, I remember like um, when they first started working on it. So it wasn't like they had bought the house or whatever it was, and they hadn't finished it yet, but they were doing construction on that. And I don't remember who was with me or why we went to do this, probably just because there was nothing else to do on Valley Forge. But I remember we went there to kind of check it out, but it was all like closed off, and we ended up like whatever. We broke into it.
Right.
It wasn't that hard to break in. The door was wide
No.
open. And like I remember seeing it and being like, oh man, like this is like a lot of work. But and then I remember being in there after it was all finished, and they did a nice job in there to like turn that thing around and put it to a dormish style living space for college students. So
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I wonder if it's still there. So maybe
Yeah, I'd like to know.
yeah,
I'd
maybe
like to tour it again, actually.
yeah. All right, this is a question that Wolfie's been asking a lot of people. So he said, if you could have any building at Valley Forge besides 24 named after you, what would you pick and why?
Ooh, ooh, because I didn't see this question. This is interesting. Uh,
Put you on the spot here.
yeah, I would have to say I would rename Buongiorno Meyer Hall
Oh, okay.
because all the douchebags lived there.
I like it. I like that. All right. So this next question is, he said, "Were you sad that the name Wolfie was already taken when you came to Valley Forge?" And also, I think that I might have been the first person you met. So I think Wolfie thinks that you were the first one, or he was the first one you met. But he wants to
Uh,
know: A, were you bummed that the name was gone, and B, was he the first one that you remember meeting?
I don't remember if he was the first one that I met, but I was not really bummed that Wolfie was already taken because I actually hate Wolfie as a like a nickname. Wolf is
Yeah.
cool, but I was not really. So I'm not at all disappointed that that name was taken. But
Yeah.
he could very well could have been because I remember he was doing start teams. I don't remember if he had my group or not, but I
So
remember him doing start teams.
the story that he told, and this is the best of his recollection, so it might not be accurate, but I think if I remember correctly, he was saying, did your parents come with you when you first went to
Yeah,
school?
they helped haul all my junk out.
Yeah, mine did the same thing, but he was saying that he remembers like walking into them, or because he maybe you guys were in the start team, so he introduced himself, and then that was the connection was made right away that, oh,
Right.
both have the same last name, and so I think that stuck out to him, and maybe that's why he thought that you might have been the first, or he might have been the first person you met.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Very well could have been.
Yep. And his last one, and you answered this earlier, but I'm gonna read the question and then just give his second part of it. He said he thinks that you're expecting, which you did say, and he just wanted to say congrats on expanding your guys' wolf pack.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. So these next set of questions here are from Colleen. Her first question is, what was your best memory of 24 down and your worst memory of 24 down?
Uh, honestly, I think the one of my best memories of 24 down. Others may not view it as such, but I actually think that the 300 movie was one of my best memories because it was all planned out. We all went and did it. There were a few sticks in the mud, not to name any names. uh, yeah, that was something cool to have like a whole floor in the movie theater just watching a movie.
Yeah, I think what kind of stands out to me about that too is we did everything together anyway, but we did
Right,
everything together on campus, and that was at least the first thing I really remember, or at least one of the first things where we did together off campus.
right.
And it really showed that like we can we are a family here on campus and off campus.
Well, it was that, and it was so crazy because I remember it like had just snowed, and we were like going through like 8 inches of snow to get to the movie theater. It was just like everyone else would have been like, "Ah, screw it, let's do it another time." But no, we did it.
Dude, it's funny that you say that because like until you said that, I completely forgot about like how bad it was snowing that night. And thinking back on it now, it like brings up this memory of, like you said, we were just kind of like, I don't care that it's snowing. We're gonna go see this movie. We were just determined that like we're doing this as a group, no matter what.
Right. I'm pretty sure that I rode in somebody else's car and probably on someone else's lap for that matter.
Yeah, we packed in pretty. I mean, I don't know how many cars we took, but we had to have a group of at least 30 people, if not more.
Right.
And I don't remember us having 25 cars. We probably took maybe 10 cars, if that.
If that.
So no, that's crazy. Um, Her next question is, if you could go back for one day and be with 24 down, what would you do?
Oh, honestly, at this point, I would probably just like to see what 24 would look like and what campus itself looks like. Uh, I, I don't know if like Dan Mortensen, I know Don Meyer's not there anymore, but so none of the people that are really hated out of there are probably still there. So I would just like to go see what it looks like.
Yeah. Have you been back since you left?
No, actually, I was in Delaware a couple years ago, and I was gonna shoot over real quick, but I didn't end up doing it because of time issue. But it was in my mind that whole trip. I should go back and see what it looks like. So
Well, so like when I finished school, I moved back to Michigan, but I was only here for 6 months. And then I ended up moving back to Pennsylvania for another 3.5 years. And then now I'm back in Michigan. Um, but obviously for those 3.5 years, like I was on campus a decent amount of times, because especially the immediate year after I was done, there were still people there that like I was close with. Um, so I saw campus a lot in those 3.5 years. Plus I worked like right down the road. So like I was driving by there all the time. But since then I think I've been back 2 or 3 times in the last 7 years. And it looks to me anyway, it's been a few years now, but to me it looks pretty much the same, but uh the amount of students, at least the last few times I was there, it dwindled so much I mean, it was already small when we were going there, but like their enrollment the past few times I went was even smaller. So like if you could picture like the same look of the campus with just way less cars and people walking around.
well, that's even crazy to think about because they were in the financial shitter like when we were there, and we were paying so much and getting nothing out of it. Like I had probably some of the better professors. I had Dr. Edmonds and Ray Martin as business professors, and they were some of the best guys. And to some extent, I actually keep contact with them here and there. But we didn't have good professors. We didn't have, great support system for what am I going to do when I get out of here. It was just like, what were we getting for our 20 grand a year or whatever it was?
Right. And not even just that, like what are you going to do after? Like another gripe that I had with the college is, from my recollection, there was absolutely no preparation of how to handle student loans when you got out. It was basically, yes, get all these student loans so you could pay us all this money and then you're on your own. We're not going
Yeah.
to like tell you what to expect and to be quite honest, like that fucked me over for a few years. Like like a few years after, I'm just learning, like I'm getting calls that, this is going on and it's like there it just felt like so much because there was nothing as far as expect this and maybe it's different now, but for when we were there, I don't think there was anything as far as, hey, this is what you should expect. Now maybe there were some
No.
professors that might have pulled you aside and given you stuff, but there was no written into the school like, hey, let's teach them, let's give them a heads up of this is what it's going to be like and
Right. Well, I mean, I had somewhat of an idea, not that it was there because it certainly wasn't, but I had some idea of what it was like because my dad was an accountant for 30 plus years. And so he kind of drilled a lot of the financial stuff into me anyway. But, like I know I own my own business now. I don't make Justin's millions, but I still get money.
sure.
But yeah, I had an idea of what it would be like.
But that all came from knowledge outside of the school, like
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
and to me that's a crazy thing, is like, why wouldn't the school, not necessarily like, I'm not saying, hey, give me every single little thing I need to know, but like try and prepare me a little bit. If I'm spending all that money, the least you could do is try and prepare me a little bit to what I might expect when it's all done. Because at the end of the day, most college kids are young kids that are not thinking, that's not on the top of their mind.
Right. Because even as like an exit interview, I don't remember having an exit interview at all. Because I
Yeah.
know it was one of the requirements to graduate, and I don't even remember having one.
Well, I didn't graduate, so I definitely didn't have one.
I won't
um,
hold that against you.
so let's see. Colleen's next question here is she wants to know If you remember the craziest thing that you did with 24 down.
Oh, I would have to say testing our paintballs over by the natatorium.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I don't know where that phase came from. But we were so big into the airsoft and the
Yeah,
paintball, like
yeah,
out of nowhere. Like it seemed like one day, like it wasn't even a thought on any of our minds. And then like, just like that, like a light switch, it flipped and we're all into airsoft. We're into paintball and
right.
like, let's just
Yeah.
shoot each other, you know?
Yeah, I mean, 'cause that's actually some of my best memories from, like the twins' mom going to his house and going back in the woods and having paintball
Yeah.
fights.
Dude, so the English, for those of you that are listening that have never been to the English twins' mom's place, it was up in the Poconos area, and their backyard was literally this like slate mountain. You could not ask for a better like free place to go play paintball. I mean, there was trees to cover, there was mountains, so you had some like terrain to go through and stuff like that, and that it was so much fun. And
Oh yeah,
and
sure. It
she
was.
was
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, she was such a good host to us too, and she would
Oh
always be
yeah.
like, yeah, come on out and play paintball in my backyard.
Yeah, I mean, who says, hey, come out and have 20 of your friends come out with you? You know,
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah, she was a great host. One of the things I remember like about one of those paintball battles is, you know, I think it was Nate Wiles. I want to say it was Nate because he was up climbing like way up top on one of those slate faces. And I see him out there, and I was like, he's out of range of my gun, but I'm going to try anyway. So I just start lobbing these things like, and I probably unloaded about 50 paintballs, and it was just, I mean, I did hit him with a couple, and it probably didn't make a difference, but it was just funny. It was like probably like 200 foot away,
yeah, that was
lobbing
so
the things.
that was so much fun. And the other thing I remember about that, I wonder if you remember this too. When we would like, I don't know if we only did it once or if it was like a tradition that we did every time, but we would, when we were done for the day, like, okay, we're done, like this is going to be our last round. And what our last round was always was we would all just like stand like 10 feet apart and just whatever paintballs you have left, like
Yep.
just no mercy. That's awesome. Yeah, those were definitely some good trips. So Colleen's next question is, and this is something she asks everybody. She wants to know when you're getting a 24 down tattoo.
Probably never. And that's just being honest, because to this date I have zero tattoos. I would want something to be super meaningful.
Sure.
To me. Not that 24 isn't, but there is probably a lot of things that I would pick that are more meaningful in my life over it.
No, that's completely fair, to be honest.
So, but I'm pretty much running broke the last few years, so I don't even have spare money to do anything.
That's fair. All right, let's see. These next questions are from Buddha here. And his first one is he wants you to give us 3 of your best Hey Eevees. It was Evie, right? Is that
No,
Dynamite? Evie. Okay, yeah.
and I had completely Buddha messaged or tagged me on a post or something a couple days ago and was like, do a Hey Evie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot. I would just like walk into people's rooms and just like blurt out something that Don Meyer would never say to Evie. And it was just, some of it was clean, some of it was definitely not. But I don't know, it'd just be like, hey Evie, does this shirt make my neck look big? Or, because he did have the biggest freaking neck ever. And it was crazy. But, it was just kind of just off the cuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But like a hey Evie, can we get a little down and do a little dirty and bring us together, Lord, bring us together, just breaking a song or something like that.
That's awesome. So I don't remember the like where it started, but I do remember you doing these all the time, and they were so funny. Like for me, because I've got like a more dirty mind.
Yeah.
Usually the dirty ones were the ones that like got me because, like you said,
Oh yeah, for
it was
sure.
things that Don Meyer would never say. He would never say, and I felt like you would just like come out of nowhere with these, like that's
Hey, Evie, lick my balls.
yeah, that's perfect. Um, all right, so let's see. His next question is this is a good one. Uh, did you enjoy getting beat down in most of the 24 down wrestling episodes you starred in?
Actually, I was just happy to be a part of it.
Yeah.
For sure. From when it first started, I thought we were like, man, we're all going to kill each other doing this. There is no way we're not going to have any injuries, like especially when someone just went through an ironing board. But yeah, actually, the one I remember the most was when we were in was it the commuter lounge?
I think that's what it was called. I don't. That's where we did most of the videos was in the
Yeah,
lounge. I think that's what it was called. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it was like uh, there was like a tag team match or something going on. I was supposed to break it up or whatever, and I ended up getting a trash can put over my head. And who was it? I want to say it was one of the twins that was hitting the trash can, and then I fall over.
It
But yeah,
was.
that was probably one of the better ones.
I think if I like so because the main storyline I guess that we had through that whole thing was like myself and Gene and Junior were DX,
Right.
and then Francis and Buddha were NWO, and then Mikey came around a little bit later, and he was just his own sugar daddy character. But the story that we did was that like when we introduced you was that like DX had a problem with the authority, and you were like the authority uh, role in this whole thing.
Right.
So I don't remember if it was Gene or if it was Junior, but it was one of them that
Yeah,
would
it
have
was
done it.
definitely one of them. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, those were good. And like when we first started that wrestling thing, it literally just started with like me and Junior and Buddha and Francis just kind of like messing around. I had that little camcorder thing or whatever, just messing around in the room. And that's where the infamous like Rick and Buddha throw me through the ironing board table and
Yeah.
I bounce my head off the ground, and Junior's laying like it all started as just like let's just record this little tiny part, and then we're like, well, we could turn this into a story, and we did that for like a week or two where we had some story, and then it like developed even more where we're like, well, let's get more characters involved, and we're like, well, we need somebody like who'd be like an authority type figure, and I don't know why, but we were all like Matt Wolf would be perfect for this role. Like Commissioner Wolf, I think was your name or something like that.
Yeah, I was doing the Vince McMahon.
Yeah, yeah. So that's funny. Yeah, those are definitely some good memories.
Oh yeah,
Um,
especially like the Rick promo in Bunjournal Lounge,
where he
the
was
computer lounge.
just yelling.
Oh, it was like 1 a.m. Gotta be.
Do you
And it
remember?
was just crazy.
Do you remember? I don't remember if it was like I know you were in the shot, and I don't remember if it was you that did the door slam. No, I think you didn't do the door
Oh,
slam. You were at your desk.
I was at the desk.
And
Yeah.
so I don't remember who it was. Somebody came in to talk to you and they got pissed and they walked out to slam the door. There's this picture just as they slam the door, just like swings back and
Oh,
forth a few times and then just hits the ground.
it was Gene. I'm pretty sure it was Gene.
Okay.
And then like they sweep the keyboard off the
Oh, yeah.
table. And it was funny because it was like stuff that like was actually being used. So what would have happened if we actually like broke any of that?
Right. Right. We weren't thinking about that. We are just like, we got to get
Oh,
this good shot here. That's funny. All right. So Buddha's next question is what were your first impressions of Valley Forge campus and specifically building 24?
I thought it was a shithole.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, not wrong. Uh, I was kind of hoping that I was going to get put in Bongiorno, but now I'm kind of happy that, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, 24, I wasn't really expecting shared bathrooms, so that was kind of weird. But it was once I got to know a couple people, it was really cool because even back then when like the first couple of weeks that I was there, it was like Banks was there, Samsung was there. There was a couple other guys that were already there, like Neil and Van Hussey were there. Had a first floor meeting with Carlos, and you know, Buddha was there, and that actually still left an impression because I remember it to this day. So, it was just there was a community already a little bit started, but then when we came in, we just brought on like a whole new like meaning to what their community was, I think.
Yeah, I feel like as the years went on, or even the semesters, and you gained new students, that it just organically worked out this way, that all the new students, so you that semester, and me and the Brazilian twins the next, and everybody, like when they came in, everybody would like bought into it, but then like added to it and made it something even better. So like organically just kept getting better because we
Yeah.
were bringing more people with different flavors and different tastes, and it really started to become this crazy unique thing that I not in a cocky way, but I don't think that'll ever happen again. Like maybe I'm wrong, but like that was something very unique. And I've often said that like I'm sure it'll never happen, but like they could easily make a movie or a TV show about 24 Down because it was just so interesting and unique, and everybody had their own character, and it was cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you're right. But I feel as you were saying that, it's like, yeah, they probably did make a movie. It's called Jackass.
Which I think they're making another one. I just heard.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. His next question is, and you kind of touched on this a little bit. It builds on that last question. Your first impression of the people of 24 Down.
Yeah. Like I said, the first thing actually that they said in the floor meeting was that, we usually leave our doors open unless we're like studying or whatever, or sleeping. Our doors are open. So if you want to come in and talk, come in and talk, whatever you got. If you need to pray about something, come in and do that. It was kind of an open door policy.
Yeah.
That's how I walked in, and it had started off as that.
Yeah. I mean, even sleeping, like I remember doors being open when people were sleeping because it was just that we're all a family. Some doors were closed. It wasn't like every single door was open. Like some people needed the door to be closed to be able to sleep in, whatever, that's fine. But like it was just so there were rooms separated, but it all felt like one giant room because we were all hanging out in each other's rooms or hanging out in the hallway. And like even though we were separated to different rooms, you didn't feel separated. Everything felt open and easily accessible.
Yeah, I didn't really feel separated from anybody, especially because I was in the room right next to that middle bathroom. I smelled everybody.
Who did you room with in 24?
See, that's a great question in itself. I was going to touch on that later, but I might as well do it now. At first, there was like no one in that room, so I kind of had a single for like a few weeks, and then this dude. I don't know if many people will remember him, but his name was Young. He was a Korean. He was
Yep.
kind of weird and out there, and because he like ended up ghosting the room like after a while. So, but yeah, he was in 24 Up, and he was rooming with that really super creepy gay dude, and I'll just call it as I see it because he was definitely that. Um, you know, and he was just getting creeped out by it. So, okay, come on down, I'll give you my room. So that's kind of how that happened. But after that, he ghosted me. And then Big Daddy needed a room to stay in because they were doing a drawing or whatever, and he didn't want to go through that. So he was just trying to get in somewhere. So I was just like, yeah, man, come in and room with me. Cause I figured he wouldn't care too much about what I was doing and vice versa, and actually was my favorite roommate. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Uh, It's funny, like thinking about Big Daddy, he was one of those guys where like, so like I obviously like I never roomed with him. So my impression of him just from just looking outside of the box or whatever is like, here's this guy, he's like super loud, but super fun. Like, how would it be to like room with him? Because he is loud or whatever. But at the same time, like we were all loud. But I guess to me, one of the cool things about him was like he seemed, and still to this day, just a very loyal guy. And like,
Oh yeah.
and he'll have fun with anybody, but he's also like respectful. So like in a roommate scenario, like you couldn't ask for something better. Like somebody you're
Oh
gonna have
yeah.
fun
For
with,
sure.
somebody that's gonna respect your space.
Yeah, he was the best roommate. We really didn't have any issue that I can remember anyway. Uh, but kind of the reason why I actually moved out of 24, I went to 24 up for a year. But the reason I moved out of 24 down was because I was starting to go through, like, I was seeing a lot of hypocrites there, and I was I know a 30 pack of Coors fits in a backpack and it fits in a mini fridge just perfectly. And I didn't want, because he was I don't know if it was youth ministry or it was just pastoral, but he was going for that. And I didn't want him to be associated with that in case, something ever happened. So that's why the next year I moved up, because I wanted to do my own thing.
Sure.
I didn't care because I was, you know, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and that's what it was.
Right. Right. No, I mean that. So I didn't know that was your reasoning, and that's actually like as much as like we would have loved to have you stay on 24 down. Like that's a very like respectable reason. Like you're taking yourself out of the equation and looking out and being like, well, I don't want to be the person that causes somebody else to do something that is going to
Right. Yeah.
jeopardize something for them. So that's actually really cool. All right, let's see. So his next question we just touched on. It was name your roommates and did you get along with them? So we don't have to go through that. So he said, um, the coolest guy in 24 down and weirdest guy of 24 down.
Oh, coolest guy in 24 down. Uh,
Aside from you, obviously.
oh yeah, sure. Pick the introvert. Yeah. I actually would have to say, before you got there, I'm just going to go on a semester before you got there. It would have had to have been. It would have had to have been Rizzo, because he was just so open and fresh with everybody.
For
And
sure.
you could not, like, even if you had nothing in common, you could sit and talk to that man. But the weirdest guy, definitely Neil Monster.
I
Without
think
a doubt.
I don't think anybody will disagree with you. I think if Neil was sitting here right now, he would even agree with you. Like I
Oh
think
yeah, dude. He actually is a really cool dude when you get to know him.
for sure. For sure. I loved any time I got to spend with Neil during college. But at the same time, he was very weird, like, but
Like,
super, super good guy.
yeah, I mean, I've never seen any person besides him eat so much Quiznos.
And play so much World of Warcraft, right?
Right? Yeah. I think he actually roomed with Van Hussey there for a while.
I think you're right. I'm trying to remember his roommates. I'm pretty sure he was like when I came in, I think he was with Van Hussey because I was near the end of the hall opposite of 117, where like the big
Yeah, yeah,
people room. I was the very opposite end of the hall. And they were across. So they were like the last room before that last bathroom
yeah.
at the end of the hall. I know Neil was in there, and I think Van Hussey was that year. I'm trying to remember who else Neil roomed with. I can't remember, but
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think Neil stayed in that room his whole time at 24 down, I believe.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, those are both good answers. Like Rizzo, I mean, I roomed with Rizzo, so I have that like special connection with him. But like even throughout the years, like I've stayed really close with Rizzo. I was at his wedding; he came to mine. I like to this day, like even today, I probably spent a good hour of my day just texting him back and forth. Like,
Right.
and I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, you didn't have to have anything in common with Rizzo. Like, he would still like make you feel like you had a cool, unique friendship, you know?
Yeah, but that's not even nailed down to Rizzo in itself. Everyone from 24 Down was like that because I honestly didn't have a lot in common with really anybody except for maybe like the English twins. Like, because I'm a gearhead, I didn't give two shits about, sports or, really anything else. But I was, I was a car guy, and they had their, I want to say it was like a Nissan Altima or something at that point.
Maxima, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not into imports. I could give two shits about imports, but that's kind of how I always was. But the Pontiac that Rizzo had was the sweetest car.
That car was really sweet, for sure. You were a Ford guy, right? Maybe
Oh
still
yeah,
are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I still have to this day have not really touched that classic convertible that I have. Uh, just haven't had the money or the time. But yeah, still a diehard Ford guy. I have a couple diesel trucks, so I've been playing around with that lately. Uh,
Nice. Well,
so
you'll get to it eventually, right?
yeah, maybe in another 18 years.
All right, let's see. Buddha's last question is he wants to know what your favorite Buddha moment was.
Oh, dude, that's hard to even nail down because I don't want to just say his laugh, but his laugh was contagious. But as a favorite Buddha moment was not like his like fun and crazy, do whatever. It was actually his serious, hey, what's going on? Can I pray for you? That was actually some of the best times, that I can remember. Not necessarily with me, because I'm sure he did with me at some point, but with others, just being like, hey, can I pray with you?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment 100% because Buddha was known as a goofy, like let's have fun kind of guy, but at the end of the day, like Buddha genuinely cared about every person on that floor. No matter how well he knew you, he genuinely cared, and if it came down to him needing to be serious about something, he was there to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's-
But I still think that his scream is better than Carlos.
I dude, there's so many memories of Buddha screaming or just yelling Carlos or whatever it was, and like they're just you'll never forget those things, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, and next question here is from Phil Anderson. Um, and these are more like tongue-in-cheek questions. His first one is, do people get you and Wolfie confused?
Um, Maybe if they just heard the name and never met us, but if they met us, hell no, we're definitely two very different people. I don't think we could, because I do love to have fun, but I can't see myself running across campus naked. And I'm pretty sure Wolfie's done that.
Yeah, for sure. His other question is he wants to know if you're an actual wolf.
Um, in name, yes, but in no other way.
All right, so we got one more set of questions here, and these are from Tim. Um, his first question is, what was your favorite prank you either witnessed or took part of in 24 Down?
Oh, I have a feeling, I can't remember if I was actually a part of it, but actually the best prank that I remember was we stacked a bunch of couches and shit in front of people's doors and then like knocked on their door. And it had to have been in like the middle of the night at 2 or 3 in the morning that we did that. But I remember that was one of probably the funnier ones that I remember. I mean, there was a million, you know, knock and runs on Carlos, but that had to have been probably one of the best ones.
There's a video on YouTube on the 24 Down page. There's a video that I took, and it was we kind of did something very similar to that. We actually did it to Tim, and I forget who he was living with at the time. It might have been after you were up in 24 or at Hartwick. I don't remember. But anyway, we basically we stacked up like a garbage can or two, and then we had like some other like the recycling bins that we
Yeah.
just filled with paper. And we like somehow manipulated them so they were all like perfectly leaning against the door. Knock on the door and they open it, and it just like all just spilled into the room. And so everybody talks about how the icy hot video with
Oh,
Samsung,
yeah.
like
I forgot about that.
they talk about how that video was actually on MTV Pranked. Well, MTV contacted me over the video that I'm just talking about with Tim, and they wanted to put that on Pranked as well. And I had like signed a contract and everything, hadn't got paid yet because they said that we won't pay you till it airs. But I had signed a contract to like, you guys have the rights to the video. And then Pranked got canceled before that aired. So 24 Down technically almost had two videos on MTV Pranked. So
That's cool.
I think that's an interesting thing there. Um, so Tim's last question is, on estimate between Buddha and Mikey, how many times did you witness each person running down the hallway butt naked?
Oh, there was a lot. I mean, for both of them, there was a lot. Um, but believe it or not, that was not the most memorable naked moment. The most memorable one for me was when someone took Big Daddy's towel when he was showering and he had to run down the damn hall. And he was in the far bathroom that time, I think, for some reason, because either some like all the stalls in the one next to our room were taken or what, but he was in the far one, so he had quite a long run to the back of the room. It was just great.
That's awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of instances of people running down the halls naked for whatever reason. you know. That's awesome. But well that concludes the question segments. Um I know there's probably some stories and things you want to get into. I'll kind of let you take the floor and direct, and I've got some written down as well in case we need to get back on or whatever. So
Yeah. Just to kind of jump back to the why I moved off of 24. I told you that, but then I was in the single in 24 up, and I liked that. They actually did have a little bit of a community going. Nothing the same, and I would just come downstairs when I wanted to hang out anyway. And but it was just the fact that, hey, I wanted to have a beer, I want to go out and have a cigar, and I didn't want to have Rick's education compromised by that. And then like I moved to Hartwick after that because Eric was already over there. He's like, man, you should come over here, it's nice. I was like, all right, whatever. So I came over there. That was probably the best move. Even though like I didn't see you guys as much, that was the best move for my education, because I actually got to study more because I wasn't really doing a whole lot of that in 24. Let's be honest.
yep.
Yeah, it was better for that. For my senior year, I did that, and I concentrated more on my studies, but I was going out every night and playing poker. A lot of you guys don't know that I played poker. You know, it was actually in some dude's basement. They were all smoking pot. I could care less about that. Wasn't my thing, but they were all smoking pot. I'm like, well, I'll just sit here and take your money because you're all being stupid and you're high, and I'm just okay. You want to play into that? I'll play into that and take your money. So that's how I actually made a little extra when I was in college. So that was kind of a little tidbit I figured I'd share. No one probably knew a whole lot of that.
I do remember you played. I didn't know that you went to somebody's house and played in the basement, but I do remember you were really big into poker. That I do remember.
Yeah, I played in some tournaments, won some free tournaments, and I went to Jersey a couple times. But I actually, if you saw the movie Rounders, I came down that same escalator and played in that same poker room. So that was kind of cool.
See, that makes me jealous because Edward Norton's my favorite actor of all time. So
Yeah.
for you to have that like makes me a little jealous because
Yeah, it was a cool moment because I knew that casino was on the downturn. That's why I wanted to go, because I don't think it's still open. I know because that was a Trump Taj, and I don't think that's still open.
Okay.
But
Now,
yeah,
do you go downtown to the casinos here at all?
uh, I have not recently. I have. It was probably a couple years after college that I really stopped doing that because it was more or less a waste of my time.
Sure.
Because I played my game and I was good at it because I make my money within the first 30 minutes that I sit down. You know, I read everybody real quick, get my money, and I should stand up, but I stopped standing up. So I just end up losing it all back. So yeah, I could walk out with the same I walked in with, but I'm not getting anything for my time. So I thought it was a waste of my time.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah, that makes
Hollywood
sense.
Casino down in Toledo is quite nice though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been back in a couple of years, but I should go back one of these days.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one in Toledo. I've been to all three down in downtown, but
Yeah.
I don't go that often. I'm not like a huge casino person, and when I do go, I just like people who are not huge casino people. I just sit at the slots, and I'm just like, yeah, just
Yeah.
do this because whatever.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm a terrible slot player.
I think everybody's a terrible slot player.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah,
But I always saw poker as a game of skill, and then people changed the way they played, and they didn't understand the game, and that kind of messed with how I thought about things because I couldn't make the same judgment calls because of how other people were reacting because they didn't know what they were doing themselves. So you can't capitalize on it.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah,
But yeah, I went through that phase for a while. But there was a couple other ones that I have here because I was listening actually last night to Rizzo Side B. That's about the last one I listened to. I am way far behind now.
that's all right.
uh, just thinking how he did all those raps and stuff, and the greatest rapper of all, Chaz. I was sitting in Aunt Martin's room across. He was right across the hall from me, and he roomed with that really skinny white kid. Like he had to have weighed like 100 pounds. I can't remember what his name was,
I don't either.
but they never really hung out with 24 Down too much. But he liked to watch movies, and I was a big movie buff back then, and so we're watching the movies in his room, and Chaz comes in, wants to do some beats on the computer, and he's just like, he goes over like this really crappy rap, and then he's just like Christian Assembly Records, and he couldn't get it right, and he's just like shit, and he would go back and he's like Christian Assembly Records, shit, that's not right, and he would just go back and do it again like 30 times. Me and Ant were just sitting there just cracking up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There was a couple other rappers on campus that are probably still rapping about spaghetti. Yeah, none of them hold a candle to Rizzo.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we were truly blessed to have Rizzo's talent because like he's gonna hate me so much for like harping on like how great he was because Rizzo doesn't like being like pumped up like this, but dude, that guy is like, he's got skill, he's got a different flavor to him as far as rapping goes too. So like you don't even necessarily have to like rap, and you hear him, you're like, well, this shit's pretty good.
Oh yeah. He honestly, he made me want to listen to rap, and it's just not my style, but for a while there, I was just like kind of digging it, kind of the underground scene, like guys were talking about on that podcast. It was just the stuff that they put out on the radio now is just absolute shit, and I won't waste my time with it.
Sure.
I really don't care to listen to wet ass pussy, so I like to see it, not hear it. But
that's fair.
Yeah. It's just he had such a raw talent, and as much as he was kind of bashful about it, we all love to hear it, and we're kind of egging him on. It was just kind of awesome that he would even share that with us.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I know I know you have a few more things you want to get into, but I want to interrupt you really quick because I actually just got another question submitted to me.
okay.
And this is from Francis, and we touched on this a little bit. The first part of it is, do you still like Ford vehicles?
Yes.
Which obviously you do. And his second part, I think he's just giving you a hard time here. He says he wants to know, if not, if you've moved on to something more reliable.
Oh, oh. Well,
So
honestly,
you could try. Go
I will
ahead.
take my diesel truck that's sitting in my driveway right now, and let's have a race.
There you go. I was gonna say
Because,
you could trash his imports now. This is your
yeah, I can definitely trash that import. I don't even need all 8 cylinders. I can have a trailer with 14,000 pounds in it and still trash his import.
oh. See, now there's a 24 down reunion that is in the work. So I mean, maybe one of the events will be a race between one of Francis's cars and Wolf's truck here with a trailer attached to it and all.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
It's awesome.
I still remember a lot of like working on that car, even like they were putting like a catback exhaust on it, and like they didn't have any tools at the time, so it's I had this BS tool set that I kept in the car, so we just broke those out and we were just like trying to bang on it or whatever to get that exhaust off. Yeah, it was fun times.
Yeah, see, I think like to me that's one of the really cool things about 24 down in general is like you don't care for imports, and Gene and Francis are going to give you shit about Ford, but at the end of the day, like you guys are just like messing with each other, but you still had fun working on cars together and talking cars together, because at the end of the day it was, yeah, we'll do some banter and we'll make fun of people and give each other a hard time, but hey, we have this common interest and like we respect each other for it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can still give him shit about, because he did have a Ford. He had a 98 Taurus show, I think, for a little bit. I don't think that thing ever ran, but I remember him having it and talking about it.
Yeah, so everybody listening, just remember Francis owned a Ford. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
um so I know you wanted to talk about paintball, and we talked about it a little bit. Is there anything else you want to touch on the paintball?
I remember just on one of the trips out to the Poconos, it was Samsung was out there, and he was like the most awkward paintball player ever, and it was hilarious to see him out there, just trying to get people. It was one of those, and I think before one of the trips, Banks got a new gun, and he was just modding it out. Like he was on Amazon like every day buying a part for this gun. And he's just like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And that's where he was actually one of the ones that was out there testing out by the natatorium
Okay.
with that gun. When we finally got out there to the twins' backyard, he starts using it, and it breaks. I don't remember whether it was part of the trigger or what, but it didn't work. And he was getting so pissed at this thing. And it's like, yeah, you just dropped like $400 or $500 on this thing and it's taking a shit. That was like some of the funniest paintball moments I remember anyway.
Yeah, dude, those paintball moments were good. And I guess that kind of leads into I know you want to talk about airsoft a little bit too.
Oh yeah. The airsoft thing, man, Henry with those airsoft pebbles. And he was even like, where are all these coming from him? I was like, I didn't want to admit that I was part of it too. It's like, I felt bad for the dude, but at the same time, I was just like, hey, we're just having fun. I remember I was walking out, kind of stalking someone out because they weren't expecting, because we would just shoot each other randomly, walk into a room or whatever. D-Rob was laying on the couch on the phone, and he sees me walk out with this airsoft gun. He thought it was a real one because he didn't see the orange tip. He's like, oh shit, and he just like runs away. It was really funny. It's like, no, it's okay. It's airsoft.
Yeah, we do. I mean, if I could go back in time and go back to when we were like really, really involved in that, like you said, like Henry was so pissed off, but like knowing Henry and knowing the type of person he was, what we probably should have done is said, Henry, like, yes, hey, this is all of us. We've all been having an airsoft war and like just been honest with him. And he probably would have been more cool with it. And if anything, he would have been like, oh, hey guys, where can I get one of them airsoft guns? And like try to like join us or something, you know, like,
That would have been great. I don't know if he's still around, but if we can convince him to do that, that'd be awesome.
dude, I don't know where Henry's at these days either. I hope he's still around. I hope he's doing well. It would be so cool to like touch base with him. So I'm trying to remember. It was just one of the podcasts that we just had recently, and I don't remember what it was, but somebody was talking about Henry and that they saw him recently, and like he remembered them. Like it was just like that. Like that's crazy, you know. I thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah.
So we always got into some like mischief in the hall, whether it was the airsoft or whether it was putting random holes in the wall for whatever we were doing. Recorded a lot of videos in the hall, but another thing you wanted to bring up was the hall sparring.
Yeah. That I was trying to bring that out in Matthias's question. Who is his favorite sparring partner? Because I already knew the answer. Dwayne Lee. For some reason, everyone convinced me that day to spar with Dwayne Lee, and I don't remember, who was there or whatever, but you know, it was body shots only. We're going at it. He was obviously kicking my butt. I got a few shots in, but he got me right in the middle of my gut and knocked the wind right out of me. And I went down like a freaking leaf and I was dying. And like, I didn't want to let on to like how much it freaking hurt, but I finally got my breath back, walked in my room a little bit, and I was like, okay, I got to save face. I got to go back out there. I got to, put the gloves back on and go at it. But it was just the fact that like, I had fun doing that. And even though it hurt for like 3 days after that. But that was just his talent over my clumsiness of fighting. I wasn't really ever a fighter. I was always a dirty fighter. I'd pick up a brick over a pair of boxing gloves. But yeah, that was my bit in 24 down sparring.
Well, I give you credit because to my recollection, like I don't think I ever did the sparring. So like for you to actually do it, like I mean you did it and I didn't. The only thing like I remember like I would wrestle, quote unquote wrestle, like with the English twins or the Brazilian twins, especially the Brazilian twins, because they were high school wrestlers. And here I have the mindset of like, oh, I've watched professional wrestling all my life. I could take these guys, whatever. But I didn't actually do like the sparring stuff. And it's probably good because I would have definitely got my ass kicked.
Well, yeah, it was just like I'm not a big dude. I'm skinny, and not that Dwayne was really that big, but he was quick. He was very quick.
Well, it's like Matthias. I mean, Matthias was never the biggest guy, but you put Matthias in a sparring match against pretty much anybody, and he's going to win.
Yeah,
because he had the skill, he had the technique.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know even because everyone fared badly with Dwayne. Uh, Even like my first roommate, Young, went up against him a couple times, and he's just this big stocky Asian dude, that thinks he's hot shit. Well, he really wasn't. So yeah, it was cool.
That is cool. So I got actually literally this is the second time now I've got another live question. Somebody just sent me another question here.
Cool.
And this is from James Majeski. And we were just talking about airsoft. He said he wants to know if you felt bad for shooting his computer screen with an airsoft gun.
Yes, because I remember that when he mentioned that in his podcast, he was just like, this dude came into my room and just shot my computer screen. What I remember of it was I was playing around with his airsoft gun, and I was inadvertently aimed at his screen. Like I was probably a good 3 or 4 feet away, and was just playing around with it. I racked it, and the trigger went off. I didn't necessarily pull it, but it went off, and it shattered that screen.
Oh, really?
It's like, crap. This guy invited me into his room, and it's the first time like I'm talking to him, and I just shattered his screen. I'm like, well, shit. I guess I'll pay for it.
Well, I think like one of the cool things about James is like he's not the kind of guy to hold a grudge or get pissed about things that are not really that meaningful in the grand scheme of things. Like maybe he might have been mad in the moment. I don't know, but like
He really wasn't even. Well, he was, but he wasn't.
right.
He was not to the point where I'm like I'm going to kill you or anything. Like, because if he was, I could just run away because he'd never catch me. But good old crazy legs. But yeah, he was really kind of cool about it. So I told him, go find a replacement. And I'll pay for it. That's what I did.
Which is really cool of you too, because I think most of the 24 down people would have done that, but I mean there's people 24 down or not. There's definitely probably a majority of people that would have been like, oh, sorry, my bad, and then like that was it. They wouldn't take that extra step to be like, well, let me take care of it. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think that shows your character and the quality of person you are as well.
Yeah, I think a good amount of people would. I mean, I think even K Mooch would.
Yeah.
You can get him on here too.
Yeah.
I had some fun times with him. I had more times going out with him and having a beer, watching a movie, whatever. He was a fun dude.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him since college, but he would be fun to get on here. Do you talk to him at all?
No, I Facebook friends with him, I think. So I'll try and message him.
Yeah, reach out to him. Well, that's the thing is like I know that there's 24 down people that still don't even know about this podcast. And not because they are ignoring people or whatever. We haven't been able to reach out or whatever. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're able to reach out to them, because like I've said from day one, anybody that was involved with 24 down in any way, small, big, whatever, they're welcome on this podcast. So yeah. Like I said, reach out to them.
Sure.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking about D-Rob there for a second, and that reminded me when I was in 24 Up, I kind of had a standing thing with people that were kind of cool. If they wanted to come in and have a beer, that they could. Me and Kevin gave D-Rob his first beer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, we went to Iron Hill. He had a beer out there. He came back. And for some reason, I had like some gin, some crappy gin, and we had some Vernors, of course. So you mix that, and I poured so heavy on the gin, and he just downs this thing, and I'm like, holy shit! This kid's first or second drink, and he's just downing this thing. He's like, oh, it's nothing, and then he staggered out the damn door. But it was just fun times. I mean, there was quite a few that came in, watched the movie, and had a beer with me.
Yeah. See, man, like it's crazy to me because I think about things and it's like, if I could just go back, because you and I were close. We were never like super, super close, but we were always close. We had that connection. We were both from Michigan and everything like that. But what's crazy to me is like you drank on campus and I had no idea. My last year and a half there, I drank on campus like crazy. Had we known that at the same time, we could have just been like hanging out drinking together.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Like I knew you smoked, but I didn't know you drank.
Yeah, it wasn't until my last like year and a half, and I just stopped caring. I went through this on my podcast, but yeah, I mean, I literally got to the point where I was walking around campus with alcohol in a cup that was covered in duct tape so that people couldn't see the beer in the cup.
Yeah.
But I was walking out in the open, like going to the cafeteria, having beer. And
well, that's kind of the way I felt about, the administration there too. And that's kind of where I was headed a little bit myself. So that's kind of why I moved off of 24 down to do my own thing. Actually, the RA of 24 up, because I had just come back from smoking a cigar, so I reeked. And he's just like, man, you really smell like smoke. I was like, oh yeah, man, sorry, I was just at the bowling alley. I did really crappy, but you know how it smells in there. And he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Just kind of played it off like that.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, as everybody in the 24 down group is like reconnecting with people and we're talking more often, and there's all these connections that are being remade. Thankfully, like you and I we only live less than an hour apart. So we will go get that beer together soon that we should have had together at campus. But
yeah, for sure, man.
So another thing that I guess school would not think too fondly on was scanning and scramming. And I know you wanted to talk about that.
Yes. See, I was wondering if Talesha was going to bring this up in his episode, but he didn't. I was one of those really bad scan scrammers one semester. Like I went to chapel like 3 times that semester. I would just go in, scan real quick, jet out to the right. I didn't go to the left. Oh, I went right to the right, just in view of everybody. Just went right out the door. And, usually I would just jump in my car and run off campus. But for some reason, this one day, I went back to my room, just started watching some TV, and Talesha knocks on my door. I'm like, oh shit. And then he's like, you're supposed to be in chapel. I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to be in chapel. And he's just like, you scanned in. What happened? I was like, yeah, I kind of dipped. He's like, well, I'm going to send you an email and we're going to find you and we'll go from there. I was like, all right, whatever. So for the next couple of days, I was like dreading this email or whatever. It never came. I was never once fined for it. I was never, never got an email from him or Brian Coles. So it was just kind of cool. I don't know if he forgot, which I'm probably sure is the case because he's good at doing his job. But, it was just kind of funny. It's like, damn, you caught me red-handed and nothing happened.
Well, I think that knowing Mark and then even hearing his podcast, it's definitely possible that he forgot. Like you said, he was very good at his job. So you would think maybe he just forgot. But it's also quite possible that he was the kind of guy that was like, maybe he figured you learned your lesson. And so he didn't need to go that extra step of finding, which a lot of people wouldn't at that school and leadership positions wouldn't do. They'd be like, oh, here's a chance to get money. Here's a chance to find. I'm going to do it. So I don't know which it was, but either way,
yeah, that's an interesting question for Mark for a part 2.
Yeah,
I'd like to know because I was always kind of wondering, because it's an interesting point that you bring up that he maybe just thought that I learned my lesson, which eventually, yes, was the case because I really didn't do it too much after that. I, stuck to my 15. Those 15 were definitely planned out throughout the semester, but because no one wants to go to poking around Phoenixville.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, that was freaking weird. I only went to one of those and never again.
I only went to one also. So.
But yeah, it was. I can't remember ever being fined for the 300 movie ever.
I think
because that one was under Brian Coles too. Because I remember putting myself into Brian Coles. Nothing happened on that one either.
Oh, okay. Because I know. I mean, I got a fine, and I know a lot of people did get a fine, but. The way it kind of went down was like Mark, when we all got called in, because I think we all got called in individually. He had the list of here's everybody that went, and we all got called in individually, or maybe we got called in groups of 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And it was more of a hey, I'm going to fine you because technically I have to, but also made it clear that I appreciate your guys' honesty and understanding of why I have to do this. And I know that to me, this is not that big of a deal, And so it's this kind of like, I remember, like, I do specifically remember getting the fine and being like, yeah, I'm fine with this. I'll pay this
Yeah.
fine.
I mean, I would have been cool with it. I mean, I had an extra $5 I could have, dealt with it. And that was the dumbest thing about that rule to begin with, is just like, it was all just a money grab. They really could give two shits about what you were watching.
For sure.
Just that, oh, it's a money grab.
Well, like I said, I mean, on Talesha's podcast, I brought up the fact that I had a Fight Club poster hanging in my room the entire time I was there, right? So
Yeah.
we had those random room inspections that we had all the time. So how many times did Mark or other people from the school see that poster? Like, they know it's a rated R movie. They obviously know I'm more than likely watching it, but they didn't do anything about it because there was no proof, whatever. But when the proof is there, like, for a lot of people, and Mark's different. Like, I'm not clumping Mark in this group. For a lot of people in authority, it was, yeah, here's a chance for us to make some extra money. Here's a chance for us to get a few extra bucks.
Yeah, and I feel like some of the other RDs would just hand out fines because they didn't like you anyways. If they
For
had
sure.
any little thing on you,
For sure.
not to name any names, but that guy that name rhymes with Ryan. And,
Yeah, he had, and Mark even said it, he had it out for us. He did not like our floor. So any chance he had, he was going to dish out a fine, or he was going to try and get somebody in trouble because he
yeah,
just didn't like our floor.
the same was kind of true for his dad too. His dad was a douche.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever talked to Chick.
No.
He was, part of like the board or whatever, looking over finances, and the school's in freaking tatters. The only one on the board that I actually respected was Dr. Edmonds, and he was trying to rein everything in, like get rid of all the riffraff, but he was just outvoted or whatever. And I actually don't know whether he just retired from Valley Forge or whether it was just, I'm leaving because this isn't working type of thing, and it'd be kind of cool to actually do like some of the favorite professors on here too.
For
But
sure. Well, I'll give a little teaser here really quick. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more here in a few minutes in the announcement section. But like I said, we are doing a special episode of the 24 Down podcast for the 24th episode. And one of the ideas is to get some different topics for anybody that wants to join to discuss. So that might be it. That might be a perfect topic, like favorite, least favorite professors. I think that's a good idea. The other thing, so I wanted to say really quick about the whole scanning and scramming.
yeah,
It was a story that just popped up into my head as you were talking about scanning and scramming. I don't remember who all it was, but I very specifically remember there was one time that a group of us went to chapel and scanned and scrammed and like met back at the dorm, and it was almost like this like celebration party of like, well, I got away,
yeah,
and then like you'd be like, well, who's not here yet? Oh man, they must have got caught and they're at chapel or whatever.
right,
I thought
yeah.
it was funny. Was there any other stories and memories you want to get into?
There was a couple.
Go ahead.
Some of the fun times, Halo battles, those were cool. And what Francis said in his episode was right on. Like, he just tried to be the best at Halo. And I hated Xbox. I was always a PlayStation guy. So, if I want to hang with these guys, I got to jump on and try and do my best at, this crappy controller that I hate and play Halo. And I actually did get good enough that they let me on their online account, which was, if I remember, was Dingling 070. And I played Rumble Pit. And that playing Rumble Pit was cool because it was like a free for all, and it gave me the love for free for all for my future Call of Duty. I was, Prestige 10 in the first Modern Warfare that came out. So I spent some time with that game over my time at Valley Forge. But yeah, the Halo battles, LAN parties. Yeah, that was some fun times. I can remember we used to rent projectors too from the library and would put up like a bed sheet against the wall and play that way. And you couldn't see anything because the resolution was absolutely terrible. But it was just the fact that it was so huge because, big screens were just starting to like come around then. And so it was just kind of a cool memory that I had. Oh yeah, one of the other things that I want to mention real quick, I have my notes here. Um, the AG doc class, you said in one of the episodes, I can't remember which one it was, that you had to learn the Apostles' Creed. I don't know whether that was in AG doc or one of the others, but for AG doc, I remember we had to memorize all of the 16 fundamentals and write them word for word and get them correct. Otherwise, you weren't going to pass or get a 50% or something. It was something ridiculous.
Sure.
So what I did was I went to the SRC and I went and typed out the 16 fundamentals. For anyone else, it would, and I printed it out. For anyone else that thought, oh, he's just, trying to memorize this, he's going to take it along with him and, memorize. No, I shrunk that thing down to like font 2 so you could barely read it. And I stuck that in the inside of my hoodie, like hoodie sleeve. So like I would have it. So I went into the thing and I pulled it out, and I think it was Vaughn. Vaughn saw me like making these things. He's like, can I get one? I was like, sure. And like, I was like 3 or 4 other people after that. And then when we actually went in to take the final, we were just like, it was Peter Engler was the assistant. I don't even remember the guy's name now. He did AG Doc and he did U.S. history, but it was DiGiacomo.
Okay.
But Engler was in there doing the test because I guess it didn't, require anything but just someone watching. He stepped out for a phone call. Everyone just freaking ripped out their cheat sheets and went down like crazy. And then he walked back in and everyone shoved their crap back in, just pretended like nothing happened. Needless to say, everyone passed.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
but
awesome.
It's like kind of crazy, the stuff that I used to do all kinds of stuff like that to pass classes.
You're resourceful,
Well, yeah, before I was hanging out with my current wife, well, she's my current and only wife, but before I was hanging out with her, I didn't really have an intelligent brain in my head for study, so I couldn't do it. So I would have to find other ways. So I just come up with some crazy stuff.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Colleen will love this. When her mom came and visited a few times, like the first time, like I saw Colleen's mom, she didn't really say 2 words to really anybody, as I remember, like the very first time. And we all went to chapel together and I sat next to her. And it was just like, man, I got to sit next to her. I don't know. She's kind of like not feeling this group of guys, just kind of weird, out of place. But then like we started talking a little bit, talked after chapel, and she's like the same person as Colleen.
Yeah.
And just as loud too. It's like, yeah, I love being around your mom. It's just like a double, really.
So her mom is actually in the Facebook group as well. Like I don't know if she listens or not, but if she listens, I'm sure her mom will get a kick out of that too.
Colleen, get your mom to listen.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just and the same thing I could say about others parents that I met, like Rizzo's parents, the English twins parent, the list goes on. It's just like everyone was so cool with us, and I can't say why, because we were not probably on the outside of things the most like group of guys.
Sure.
But
yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you 100% because every parent that I met was like, it felt like another set of, parents or another parent to you, because it was this acceptance of like, oh, my son like loves you and loves this group. So like I love you and I love this group too. It didn't matter if we were a little bit like on the edgy side or if we were
Yeah.
just nothing but pranksters. It didn't matter. It was, hey, my son's part of this family and I see this too. And so like we love all of you as well. Cause I don't think I ever met a parent of 24 down, anybody in the 24 down group that I didn't like absolutely love,
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. And actually, kind of reminds me of another story. When we went to the English twins, well, I did, to help move some stuff back to room 117. That was when me and Gene stuffed an entire dining room table into my Ford Focus. And with a bunch of other crap stuffed around it, I had the seat all the way up and I was driving like that all the way back. The damn table stuck to my neck just so we could play Halo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy. She was their mom was so hospitable to us. And, when we first got there, she's just like, here's food. And that's so cool.
Right. Yeah, especially for a college student. You're like, oh, food? Like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Food that doesn't taste like shit.
Right. That's awesome.
Oh, and going off of one of the podcast previous questions, I'll just put it out there for the favorite and least favorite food out of the cafeteria. My favorite, unless it was rib night, which it never was except for like once a year, had to have been the cheesesteaks. The burgers were a go-to, but the cheesesteaks were probably a little bit better.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, were the cheesesteaks as often? Because I know there was always burgers. Okay.
No, there was always burgers, but the cheesesteaks were maybe like once or twice a month.
Gotcha. Okay.
But those were good. Probably the worst food there was the stuffed shells. They were terrible.
I can't even remember them, so they obviously weren't that good if I can't remember them.
They were absolutely atrocious. And that was actually another reason when I was over in Hartwick, I actually emailed Dan Mortensen and was fighting him over the stupid meal plan. And because I was working at that point, I had a job at a dealership out in Pennsylvania. I was in I want to say Spring City, maybe. I don't know. It was one of the towns close by. Anyways, I was like, yeah, I'm working and I'm going to be able to do like 2 meals a week. So why am I going to get charged all this money for all this food? And he's like, well, what we're going to do is you can say you can do 2 meals a week. We're going to make you buy all these Patriot dollars. And then you go to the back porch. I'm like, okay, whatever. What I ended up doing is just buying like pop and like energy drinks and stuff from the back porch. I never went there. I just made my own stuff.
Right.
It was just like, the dude tried to get you every which way he can.
I think like I forgot about that, but they forced you to get a meal plan, didn't they?
Yeah, whether you wanted it or not.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. That's crazy. Again, just another like, hey, we need make some extra money.
Right. And it was I don't know, honestly don't know which company was worse. I mean, Sodexo in the beginning was terrible, and then Aladdin was absolute trash.
Right.
So maybe I was just used to Sodexo by the second time they came back.
Yeah, because it was like, I remember when Aladdin came, we were all like, oh, finally a new company. And then they weren't good. And then like Sodexo came back and we're like, yes, Sodexo's back. And we're like, why? Because we all knew it was shit anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I was just what I ended up doing. I was just, buying like ground meat and making burgers and shit at Hartwick because they had the full kitchen there, which it was great because you could go down there, make whatever, bring it back to your room. I had a mini fridge, so I kept it all anyway.
Sure.
So.
Nice.
But
nice. Well, you got anything else you wanna?
Let me look real quick. I think we covered pretty much everything, but just with a quick note to Dingaling 070. My first gamer tag for my PlayStation 3 was James Bond 070.
Okay.
And I was so pissed because it was a couple years ago. I hadn't played forever. And then a couple years ago, when I tried to log back in, I didn't, I used the school email. And obviously, I didn't have the school email anymore. So I was so pissed I lost that gamer tag.
There was, I mean, it's been years now, but there was a time where I was like, oh, I wonder if I could get into my Valley Forge email. And same thing. It was like a few years after I was gone, and I
Yeah.
tried, and it was like, nope, you don't have access. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, I probably had some cool stuff on here.
Yeah. Well, they gave you this bullshit, like alumni one after you graduated, and they just sent you like, oh, you can donate. And so
Of
no,
course.
I never used it. I just deleted that. Like, why the hell would I want to donate to something I really didn't feel that was providing a greatest of service?
Right.
But would I give it up for anything? Probably not, because one, I wouldn't have been on 24 and met every one of you guys. And two, I wouldn't have met my wife.
Right.
And that, and the story of itself was kind of crazy because, as I said, she really didn't like me. But when we were hanging out with my buddy Eric, um, you know, he's like, you should date her. And I was like, no, man, no, that's not going to happen. And, she wore me down. And finally, like one day in Walmart, she just grabbed my hand. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll roll with it, and it's been 11 years pretty much within like a month or so
That's
of,
awesome.
of that happening.
That's awesome, man. Well, let me just, I'm going to do some podcast plugs here before we get out of here.
Yeah.
And then I've got something I want to say to you, and then I'm going to let you kind of close it out. You can say whatever you want to the 24 Down family, any shout outs you want to give, whatever you want to do. Let me do these podcast plugs really quick. For those of you that have Twitter that want to follow us on Twitter, pretty much the only thing I do on there is just post when a new episode is posted. It's our handle for Twitter is at 24 Down Podcast. If you want to email us for any reason, which I really can't think of a reason, but if you do, 24downpodcast at gmail.com. We've got two Facebook pages. We've got the 24 Down Podcast page, which is public. So if you're listening, you can like the page and you can get all the information about upcoming episodes. So you can ask questions. You can also, be the first to know when a podcast drops. The other group is the 24 Down group page. It's a private page. It's only private because we just don't want random Joe Schmo to come in. If you have any association with 24 Down and you want to be part of this group page, you are more than welcome to do that. That is where, again, there's more information about when the podcasts are posted. But there's also just, we're talking about doing a reunion. So you'll find information for that on there and so forth. So check those out. YouTube, we do have a YouTube page. So you can watch these podcasts in video format if you would like to. And then the last thing is our Store Frontier page, storefrontier.com/24down. And that's where you can get your 24 Down shirts. We've got the 24 Down podcast shirt, straight 24 Down logo shirt. We started to do some shirts specific to people. So there's a Tim Sarajan Dance Dance Revolution 24 Down shirt. There's a Studio shirt. Expect some more designs for specific people or specific stories or whatever like that. So check that webpage out. It's again storefrontier.com/24down. And the last thing I'm going to say, again, I tease this a little bit. We are on episode 19 here. So we are coming up to episode 24. Buddha had the idea, and I think this is one of the best ideas. For our 24th episode, we are going to hold a open episode. I'm going to provide the Zoom information. Anybody can get on. Anybody can be a part of this. There will be some talking topics that we will get into. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it is open to everybody within the 24 Down family. Look out for info coming within the next week or two. It's going to be just an awesome episode with everybody on, everybody sharing, everybody having fun. So that'll be kind of a celebration. So that's it for my plugs. Wolf, I just want to say, man, like like I said before, like you and I were never like, the super, super close, but man, like I always felt a really cool connection with you. And I think maybe again, part of that was the fact that we were both from Michigan, but you're just a very genuine guy. And um, I felt that I could always be myself around you. I felt I could always open up around you. And I think anybody that's listening would agree to that. It's been such a pleasure to have you on this episode. Like I've told everybody, this is part one of everybody's episode. Anytime you want to come back for a part two, I'm game. I'm more than happy to have you back. But I want to thank you for coming on. I just want to say, man, like I do really, really appreciate your friendship, and I can't wait to go get a beer together with you soon. And with that, I'll leave it to you. You can close us out, and you can say whatever you want, and kind of say whatever you want to 24 down or whatever else you want to say.
Well, thanks, Hat. I've been looking forward to this a lot. And yes, you know, I resonated a lot with you. I think it probably was Michigan to a certain extent, and we know what pop is. But other than that, you are a genuine dude. I honestly see a lot of similarities in us for when we were at that time. You know, um, if we had known, we could have probably hung out a lot more.
For
But
sure.
anyways, I really appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to it a lot. And anyone who hasn't, get your butt on here and do a podcast, because I'm an introverted guy and I'm sitting on here and talking for almost 2 hours. So if I can do it, come on and do it. You can be on here for an hour and say what you got to say, but we want to hear from everybody, and we mean everybody. I resonated with a lot of people that I would probably not give a second glance to now, if I hadn't met you, back then. And that's just to say what a great community 24 was and still is. So with that, God bless, have a great day, and see you later.